Hello, everyone, and welcome to SKALE's February Community AMA. I am Sydney on SKALE's core team, and today we have SKALE Labs co-founders Jack O'Holleran and Stan Kladko here with us to answer your questions. And just to give a little bit of background, we do these AMAs monthly, and this month we have tons of questions from the community. But first, for all of those who are new to the SKALE community, Jack and Stan, can you please introduce yourselves before we dive into our questions for today?
All right. Hey, everybody. Nice to talk to you. This is, I'd say, probably one of the absolute most fun parts of Stan and I's job, getting here and talking to the community. There's so much happening. This is our time to really answer your questions. It's your time. We're here in service and support. So most of you know me, but for those of you that don't, I'm Jack O'Holleran. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SKALE Labs. SKALE Labs is the core team behind the SKALE Network. The SKALE Network is an open, decentralized network, just like Ethereum or Bitcoin. So no one works for the SKALE Network, but there is a core team that's here to support and facilitate its growth. Yeah, I've been in Silicon Valley doing tech startups for a very long time. I've started numerous companies in machine learning and AI, and worked in mobile and cryptography and mobile security a long time ago, and started doing blockchain back in 2017 when I met Stan, and that's when the SKALE journey started. But so nice to talk to you or meet the new people here today. And Stan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for those people who didn't yet participate in our sessions, I'm the CTO of SKALE. I also manage our core team. So I do day-to-day operations of our engineering, also work on the mathematics of the consensus. Nowadays, we also work on the zero-knowledge mathematics. So I started SKALE together with Jack, which I think happened about like 5 to 6 years ago. Before that, I started several other startups, some of them in Wi-Fi, some of them in big data, in AI. And before moving to industry, I was a researcher. I did a PhD at Max Planck Institute of Physics in Germany. So I was doing theoretical physics. I worked in the US at Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico, at Stanford University. So I spent actually lots of time in my life in research. And in SKALE, one thing which I think differentiates SKALE from other projects is that many people that actually work in SKALE, especially in SKALE engineering, they were scientists, mathematicians before in their previous careers. So lots of things about SKALE are connected to fundamental science, and we're trying to be very hardcore in terms of computer science and in engineering.
Awesome. Well, Jack and Stan, thank you for introducing yourselves. And I think we can get into our questions now for today.
Before we do that, I just want to give a quick shout out because we had a huge amount of questions. And so I don't think I'm gonna be able to have time to read everyone's name, but thank you. Like Mooncake, Summer, Baby J, Kai, Raj, Roni, Vivab, Gia, Andy, Asmir, Gez, Flensman, Miswan, Irma, Abhishek, Dilip, Barry, Ronald, Ferry, Ilya, Jez, Ben, Yefu, Michael, Jasper, Akira, Rohit, Rahul. So I can't list everybody's name, but all of you, it's a big global community here, and we appreciate your questions. So if we can't get to all the questions, we're going to try to address them elsewhere. But please, when we do these AMAs, we want to answer your questions. So if you didn't get a chance to ask a question today, please be ready to answer one. Follow the Twitter and ask the questions. We'll be here to answer them. Okay, this is trying to be as open and transparent as possible from a project perspective. So please let us hear your thoughts. All right,
yes,
so go for it.
Yeah, all right, so let's get to it. So the first question is from Mooncake. How can you create a sustainable economic plan with zero gas commission? How does your ecosystem's revenue model work?
All right. Okay, Mooncake, thank you. I'm going to take this first one. And hey, I have to say this one is a really critical question. It's probably one of the most least understood components of how scale works. Okay, so scale can actually have a sustainable zero gas fee model and still be decentralized. And every day, I think I have to correct people who are either partners or potential dApps that are deploying that say, well, hey, isn't scale centralized? Who's getting paid to run these servers? Well, the reality is that developers or entities, projects, DAOs, companies, whomever, somebody has to pay for the chain because someone has to ultimately pay for the transaction. But scale has a unique model where groups or parties or individuals can pay, instead of per transaction, they can pay for the compute space. So it's almost like renting a car. Instead of paying for the mile and like you just keep dropping quarters in every mile, you're paying in advance to rent the car for the month. Okay. And that's how it works on scale, is you can pay for this compute space that lives in these servers and this decentralized network. And in that compute space, you can drive that car only as fast as the car will drive, but you can drive it as much as you want. It's yours. Okay. Most blockchains have these shared vehicles and everyone has to pay per mile. And if too many people want to get in the car at a time, well, it costs more and other people get kicked out and they have to wait. Scale is a different model. It does load balancing by way of having lots of chains and by having modular chains. Okay. And so these modular multi-chains are how we can keep growing. And that lets the network have a sustainable model, because if the network's too overloaded, well, guess what? People can pay to set up new chains. All right. And so, anyways, you could read more about this general topic, read about app chains, read about modular blockchains, read about multi-chain networks. Scale was very early in this wave, and that's how Scale can do zero gas fees. It's economically sustainable, and it's scalable in the sense that there's no finite capacity. The capacity can keep growing. Okay, great question.
Great.
All right, Stan's going to handle the next one.
Great question. Yes, and this is from Summer, and I love this question. Can you explain more about the Dartmouth study? What did you think about the findings?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'll start by saying that, what we see in the blockchain industry is that the industry is maturing. So if you look at what was happening just a couple of years ago during the previous crypto summer, so to speak, was that people were making some statements about how their blockchain works, telling things, but there was really no independent review or independent journalism or independent certification. So I think one of the good things about this kind of crypto winter, and I think as things are getting better now, so we're kind of in the next crypto spring, I think for this crypto spring, people actually asking questions. So people, when someone says something, what's your block finality? How many transactions per second you have, this or that. People now asking, can you provide an independent party that can actually certify the statements? So, which is really great, I think. And one great thing about Dartmouth, it's a great university, clearly, and it's a great scientific team. So we're having this new entities which are independent, and when they measure things and when they quantify things, we can trust them. That's a big deal, I think. It's a big deal. And so there was this study done by Dartmouth where we as a project fully collaborated with them and cooperated, provided them logs, our data, how our things are working on our network. They were going into details, and they're smart people. And they were looking into things like block finality, which basically means if you send a transaction on blockchain, how much time for this transaction to get finalized. If I pay you $5 for like a hamburger, how much time do you need to wait to give me the hamburger back, right? That's the finality time. They were also looking for things like transactions per second, which are really important for us at Scale, because we're actually targeting now the market of high performance apps, high performance blockchain applications. And I'm going to talk about this more in the future during this session. But so they were looking into different things, but from the point of view of independent study, and they were also looking into mathematics. And at Scale, from the beginning, we always wanted the mathematics to be provable and clean. And we're happy now that there are parties that actually do look into certification and validation of what people say, right? So there was this study, and you guys can read the study. It's on Twitter. It's been tweeted by Scale Network. But the point is that they actually validated our statements, and they validated the things that we've been telling from the beginning, that Scale Network is very fast. We have several seconds of finality, which means if someone pays on Scale, the other party just needs to wait several seconds. But we do the things without jeopardizing mathematics or cutting corners. Things are still provable. If you have a transaction on Scale, it's mathematically provable that it's secure. So I think for me personally, this study is fantastic because not only because of Scale itself, but I think also because it provides this new kind of the new trend where the people say things, they also need to be validated by third parties.
Yeah, and I want to add to that because this is something we've known for a long time, okay? And we've known that Scale, amongst the other blockchains in that study, is the fastest of those and has the fastest finality, has the most throughput as well. And Scale was ranked top ahead of Solana, Avalanche, Polygon, Ethereum mainnet, which we're connected to Ethereum and help scale Ethereum, so that was obvious. Phantom and some others. So the other thing is Dartmouth. We knew this, but you go read people's marketing and these projects' marketing, and they say these astronomical numbers. And what we were hearing was that from these dApps that would work with these partners and come to us is that these other projects weren't actually fast. One of them only does 6 transactions per second. You can read it. I didn't name that one in this, but go read the study. We constantly had people coming to us saying, "Oh, they can only do 6 per second," and their website says they do like thousands. And so, what we did is we, thankfully, an independent group. Not only did they do the study, but they worked directly with those other projects to validate their methodologies, validate their testing, and they literally pinged these networks and tested real world dynamics. And like Stan said, during this whole last bull run, there's just everyone saying they could do everything, and you had these like wild numbers that people were claiming, and then when they actually look at real servers and real global environments. You can see, from a third party, which network's the fastest. Also, I just want to say Scale has the ability to be way faster even than it is. Scale was being tested on a medium chain. If a full large size chain was being tested where all the compute sources of each node was dedicated, it has tested with us at over 2,000 transactions per second in all the testing we've done. Now, these chains being tested were only medium chains, and they were still that fast. So anyways, we were just really, really happy to see those results and glad they were validated and tested by a third party like Dartmouth Blockchain that is, a very highly respected top tier university blockchain program. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Okay, so moving along, this question is from Baby J. Can you tell the community why ZK is an important technology, and please talk about why Scale should integrate it? I think, Stan, this is for you.
Yeah, I think so. Several things. First of all, we at Scale, we're a startup, right? Scale is a startup. So when startups, there are many technologies you can add to your product, right? But when as a startup, we need to wait until the technology becomes mature, because we can't do fundamental science ourselves. We can only wait until in the academia people come up with something interesting. And I think what's been happening with ZK, with provable computation, is that for the last probably 5 years we've been looking into it, And our determination was that it was a little bit too early. It was a great scientific thing, but it wasn't performing so fast. It still had some rough edges. But I think during the last year, especially, there was this huge breakthrough in ZK, in verifiable computation, both in terms of mathematics, but also in terms of open source. And so if you go to GitHub now, you can find many things. So building ZK applications has become tremendously faster and easier during the last year, just because of open source in particular. And then in addition to that, if we do something at scale, we're looking to do something new. We don't want to copy people. We don't want to really do something original. And so we're also looking, can we actually contribute and do something which matters? So if you know that scale chains are pretty fast, and if we wanted to add the ZK to our chains, we didn't want to also modify user experience in any way, make them slow. And also, we don't want our nodes to do too much computation, because if we require our validators to do too much computation, it will centralize things, because not all validators are able to do it. So these are things that we've been thinking about, and I think at the end of the last year, we looked into ZK again, and we realized that we actually could do everything, in the sense that it's now open source. We think we can contribute, and we can do new things, and we can add ZK to all of the scale chains. And there have been some technological things that we came up with, which at the moment I'm not yet able to share. But basically, we think that not only we can do ZK, but we found ways in which we can add ZK to our chains without what people love about scale, which is fast finality, high throughput, things like that. I think we found ways to blend in ZK into our chains without compromising the performance or the user experience. So because of all of those things, we just made this decision, and it was pretty huge decision for us, in the sense that all of scale, starting from engineering to marketing, we're kind of moving our ship, we're turning it into ZK, and starting pretty much from December of the last year, many things at scale happening, which are ZK related. I'm not yet able to talk about all of them, but ZK is the major thing for us now, especially having that scale consensus and scale chains are for the most part completed. We did implement all the mathematics, we fixed many bugs. So things are really getting much more stable now in our core product, in scale chains. And ZK is kind of the new frontier. And in addition to that, there is this huge industry trend in ZK. So not only we are doing it, but many other people are doing it. And we're also looking into partnerships, partnering with people that actually go in the same direction. And also there are many things going in this field. So overall, we are really excited about ZK. We think not only scale, but for the entire industry, ZK is going to be one of the key trends and keywords that people are going to talk about during the next crypto summer. I hope it happens. And we are fully invested and fully looking into ZK, not only trying to be part of it, but in many cases lead and do things that other people are not doing.
Yeah, Jack, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say there's a lot of ZK technology that exists today, and a lot of it's open source. Okay, some companies have kept pieces of it closed source, but they're planning to open source everything. And so then you have to ask yourself the question: well, if this really valuable technology is available to anybody, where are the business moats? Where are the, who wins in this battle when anybody can deploy a technology? And then the answer is like, well, one, who can deploy it in the most effective way? Who can deploy it in a way that's, I think, which will matter, will be in a decentralized way. And then lastly, who actually has users, right? Who's out there working with games, with Web3 products, with decentralized applications, with DeFi protocols? And so these are the important questions. And so we look at scale from the decentralization piece, right now you look at a lot of these projects that are building ZK technology, they have goals and ambitions to build app chains, to build multi-chain networks. Scale already has that, okay? So we already have this multi-chain world, so we have the hard thing people want to build. And then the other piece, the ZK technology, is open source. And so what it does is it opens us up to be a phenomenal partner to a few really valuable or select partners that are building deep ZK technology. The other piece is we actually have the team that knows how to implement this. So people that work the Scale developer community has, phenomenal PhDs and world-renowned mathematicians and cryptographers that understand ZK technology and understand cryptography and mathematics, and will be able to integrate it. So even though it's open source, it's still not accessible to anybody. You could, if you're a normal Web3 team and you try to, let's implement ZK, well, good luck. You're going to need some really smart people, even if you're not writing the core code. So you look at all those dynamics. Scale has all those component parts. So it makes sense for us to add it as an option. It doesn't mean that the core product isn't, we don't believe in it. We're going to keep pushing that. It's phenomenal. It's incredible. This is you could think of it as a golf bag. This is a new club in the bag for every Scale chain. Eventually, initially it'll be one Scale chain, which more news will come out on that later as the community releases that. But then eventually it's something that can live and be optional for every Scale chain. So anyways, exciting stuff to come with ZK. And thanks, Stan. Good answer. And I'm pumped to keep doing this. We're uniquely positioned to leverage ZK in a very, very important way.
Yes, very exciting. Going on to the next question. This is from Kai. Can you tell us more about the core team's new structure? Jack, can I give you this question?
So hey, we had a lot of questions about this, and the reality is first off, this is a core team change, not a protocol or project. This is something that's very specific to the core team, and the core team, I think, has an exciting new structure. What we've done is we took certain parts of the company because we are a company that we're talking about, SKALE Labs Inc., and we folded comms into the marketing org to have more synergy. We took the solutions engineering team and we essentially created a developer success and developer relations team that's helping drive product strategy, helping drive implementation. So now there's so many teams that are on the front edge that are coming into the pipeline. The goal is to help these projects get up and running faster. And so that's why this new developer success, developer relations team was formed. Now, and then there are some small changes on the BD team for more efficiencies, but from a numbers perspective, and why this wasn't big news, why there wasn't a formal post, is we added 4 new people to the team in contract roles in December, and through this restructuring, 4 different people are no longer with the company who are very close friends with us and great people, but they didn't fit in the new org structure. And they are, people we care about. But unfortunately, the structure, there wasn't a place for them. So we still have the exact same amount of people with these new 4 people and minus the other 4 people that we had on December 1st. We just have a slightly different operating plan. So this wasn't, what I would say major catastrophic news, like other projects have had to announce huge 50% cuts in staff and, doom and gloom. This wasn't that. And so, and that's why, frankly, there wasn't any broad public communications. These are small changes that happen within a core team structure that don't impact the project at outside of dynamics on the team. But again, we're always an open book and happy to address these things. And that's why I'm talking about it today. So anyways, we're excited. We also have are changing strategy a bit to get more out of our marketing. And when we think of marketing as a tool to educate the world. And it's all about education. We need to educate people on why Scale is unique, how it's powerful. We need to get this, how it works, how to deploy. We need to get this information to developers. We need to get this to crypto enthusiasts, to educators of people out through different various channels. And so we have a more optimized way of doing this. In the past, we were spending so much time, energy, and effort with in-person global events that are expensive, that take people out of their operational capacity of their day-to-day jobs. And we had people flying all over the world. And so what we're doing, we're being more efficient and more effective. We're doing way more online this year with a real focus on educating people with the right message at the right time through the right channels. Okay. So anyways, we're pumped about it. And just every organization, I've been doing startups. I started my first for a long time. I started my first company in 2008. If you're not iterating your team structure every 1 or 2 years, we're getting behind.
Every 1 or 2.
Okay, we had a delay. So anyways, that on that point, and let's go to the next question.
All right, sorry about that, tease. But the Mengal Oha, correct? How yes, but when they have a good transactions are failing, how discussions? Stan, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I hope, I think it's important this noise. I hope it got resolved. So I'll try to
yeah, Stan, I think we're having a technical issue. I was just pinging Rob. Can everyone, are we back on track? Sydney, can you?
I hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
We're talking very slow. Okay, Stan, I think we're hearing you all right. Sydney and I will go on mute, and you go ahead and go for it.
So basically, this is kind of an example when things go bad, when too many transactions happen. So I think if you look at what's happening, not only at Scale, but also in blockchain industry, when blockchain industry started with Bitcoin was very mathematical and simple. People say it was slow, but it was working pretty well, right, when it started. So Bitcoin was very mathematical, and if you have too many transactions on Bitcoin, then the gas fees go up, and it naturally filters out people which are not willing to pay, right? So this Bitcoin was reasonably okay, even in the cases where there was peak load, people just submitted too many transactions. Bitcoin was always working well, and the same with Ethereum, and the same with Scale, because in all of these three examples, we are mathematically clean. So if you submit too many transactions to Scale, the gas fees will go up, and naturally the transactions that don't have enough zero fuel will be filtered out. So we still have gas fees. Our gas is free, but we still have our gas fees, and the DApp decides who gets this free zero fuel. So zero fuel in our case doesn't have any monetary value, but does have the value as a protector in cases of peak load. So if you have many transactions, users have to pay the zero fuel. Now, with other projects, you know what's been happening recently, right? Like I think yesterday Solana crashed, and they basically had to stop their blockchain and revert it like one day in the past. And I think the reason, I don't want to pick specifically on Solana, is just that it happened a couple of days ago, and many other projects have similar issues. And the problem is actually comes from what we discussed at the beginning, from the independent review. So during the last crypto summer, many projects were saying, they have zillion or 2 zillions transactions per second, and no one actually independently reviewed the mathematics. No one even tried, I think, to independently understand what was going on. And now we have the situation, what you realize, that some of the projects, when they were kind of cranking up what they said was TPS, they were actually taking some important elements out of the blockchain, which made things less secure and less stable in case of peak load. So we do see this happening every time more and more. And as an example of Solana, I think we've seen this 5 or 6 incidents, and they have been trying to fix it. They couldn't fix it because there's no mathematical foundation, frankly, from the beginning, right? If you build your car without any schematics and just wait somehow ride fast, and then suddenly, parts of this car start like basically like they fall away. It's hard to fix something which didn't have any schematics from the beginning. So we do see this many projects now having problems because of the way they were built essentially. In the case of Scale, we do have a mathematical model. So if there are too many transactions, the gas fees will go up and the transactions will get filtered out. So we don't have a mathematical problem with that. Having said that, there's still some bad things happening. It could happen to Scale if someone submits too many transactions just because of the bugs. We still have bugs in our code. They're fixing them. There are less of them now. So one of the important things that we are doing now at Scale Engineering is trying to understand how to have less bugs, which is really important for software to be stable. And as Jack just discussed, we made some changes in our organization, and there were also changes in engineering. And in engineering, we're basically trying to slow things down. We don't actually write so much code anymore as we wrote like a year ago, less lines of codes, but we're introducing much more review, and we're tightening the screws and requiring more tests and more unit tests and more QA tests and things like that. So when the product matures, you need to slow down and improve quality. And a big change for us in engineering, starting from release 2.2, there will be many more quality directed things, which will hopefully make us even more stable. Because what we realized is that the future for our core product is not to have more features, but to have much more stable features, because blockchain is a critical distributed software system, and people that use blockchain, they expect the blockchain to be reliable and to perform well under all kinds of circumstances. So what we think our long-term goal should be just to be more stable than other chains or other projects. And this requires lots of work, which is boring, like fixing bugs, reviewing things. But we think that's actually something that's going to contribute the value of Scale for many years to come. And to give you guys an example, if you look at in the world of databases, right? There's a free database called MySQL. Everyone knows it. And you can run MySQL, you can install it, you can run a MySQL cluster, and many startups do use MySQL because it's totally free. But then the time comes that you need to run critical application. You're a bank, for instance, right? And your database stores information about how much money each of your customer has. So it turns out that no banks use MySQL. Everyone is using Oracle. And if you go and buy Oracle, just one single node of Oracle, one instance, it's probably going to cost you $1 million a year. And typically, if you're a bank, you probably will run like a cluster of like 5 instances, pay like $5 million a year. But Oracle is a software which is like 50 or 60 years old. And all of this time, they've been securing it, stabilizing it, fixing bugs. So the value of Oracle, this $1 million a year that you pay for Oracle license, is actually this 50 years of bug fixing. So this example actually shows that the mundane work, the boring work of just making software high quality actually pays off. And
Stan, just to be really, Stan, sorry to interrupt you, but just to be really clear, and Stan's referring to the value of Scale as a network to developers.
Totally, yeah. It's just totally. I mean, I don't mean the value of
the token. He's talking about the value of the. Yeah, it's about sustainability. It's about stability, right?
Totally, absolutely. I mean, just to give you another example, Linux, right? Like Linux doesn't have any value, but there's a value of people using it, right? So I don't mean like monetary value of, money. Linux doesn't have any token, but Linux is nowadays, Linux is used everywhere, right? It's hugely successful. And the reason, but if you look at Linux kernel, if you look at what Linus Torvalds did, the kernel didn't really change much since like 20 years ago. There were some changes, but very small. So the value of Linux kernel is just that it doesn't have many bugs, and they keep on fixing bugs. And the bugs that nowadays Linux kernel has are tiny, because all of the big bugs are like already fixed. So for software, if you think about its value in terms of people using it, stability is much more important than the new features. So we're turning Scale engineering into kind of trying to make Scale as stable as Linux kernel.
And Stan, let me add one thing to that, because I think there's some context I want to add that I think is really critical. So number one, we thought Scale was incredibly stable because it is for the typical usage of blockchain users today. Okay, so if you go use any almost every single app on the entire Scale network, it's very stable. But I have to give a call out to Xord. Xord was absolutely hammering the Scale chain with transactions, and not just transactions, but huge transactions. And what they did is they exposed us to where the requirements for Scale in the future, not where today's market is, but for where the market of applications are going to be in the future for Web3 applications and games that want to do huge amounts of volume, and not little basic tiny smart contract transactions, but huge computationally intensive contracts on chain. And so that exposed Stan saying we have bugs. Well, what we found is there are things that need to be ironed out for that level of usage. So we're fine. We have something incredibly viable for where the market is today. But in order to have something that's enduring over time and can handle, be future-proof, handle the load of the future, we've got to get in, tighten the screws, dig in. And I'll tell you, this engineering team, and both in the core team and externally, people are working their asses off. But it's not frantically just writing as much as possible, which a lot of the projects are doing and trying to drive these GitHub stats. It's getting in and ensuring, working just as hard, but working at a way that is quality focused. And so I commend that. I think it's, we always are building for the future. We have what the market needs today, but Stan just mentioned Solana had a major fallout, and that's a huge, huge issue. And it's something that, we're making sure we're doing everything we can collectively in the team and around the team to make sure Scale is stable. So,
Jack, to add a little bit about Xord, it's a great moment for me to talk a little bit more about Xord. When we last year, at the end of last year, I think we had a project offsite, and we tried to understand what's Scale, right? Like where do we focus? Because there are many blockchains. Everyone says that they will take over the world, but we decided specifically to have a better focus, and we decided that the focus of Scale is not just blockchain, but high performance blockchain. That's very logical because Scale is already the fastest. You can look at the Dartmouth study. We are doing pretty well in terms of finality time, transactions per second. So we're also Ethereum compatible. So we decided that to focus on high performance blockchain applications which are Ethereum compatible. Because from the beginning, Scale was all about Ethereum, and we always believed that Ethereum ecosystem is going to be dominant. We just see this happening, like every month Ethereum becomes much bigger than everyone else. So because of this, Xord was such an interesting application for us because it took us to the limit. I think you can actually go to Xord because they recently released some of their data. So they run tens of thousands of agents, which at the same moment in time basically go and talk to Scale. They've been running hundreds of thousands of read requests per second. There's a transaction, but there's also request for information, a read request, and they're reading our blockchain hundreds of thousands of times per second. So when this started happening, we realized that to do a high performance blockchain applications, you need to have a totally different architecture, more complex architecture. So Scale now is adding new things, like you don't only have like a core chain, Now we have the archive nodes and sync nodes and proxies, and you offload different things to different actors in this system. So essentially, if you want to design a high-performance blockchain application, you need a more complex architecture. You need to know more. There are many, many things which are very specific to running things fast and with high volume. One thing which is really interesting to us, and we're really happy to have XOR there, because we hope that with XOR there, we've been polishing our things and designing this new architecture. Now we have the architecture. We hope that other applications will come and add to what XOR is doing. And we also hope that this new crypto spring and the new crypto summer, which at some point is going to happen, will be about high performance applications, because we think that it's time for people, around the world to start using blockchain. You don't see, if you are like in a subway, you don't see people in subway using blockchain. They play games, but they don't play blockchain games, right? So we hope that this new crypto summer will be about millions of people actually starting to use blockchain. And then if this happens, immediately you're actually going into this direction of high performance applications, blockchain applications, high performance architecture, infrastructure. So that's really where we see the future of Scale.
Awesome. Thanks, Stan. So just moving along, can everyone hear me okay? No robots taking over, just stubborn AirPods. But we have a two-part question from Ronnie. So the first part is, how can we as a community help the network's growth? And is there any guide to help newcomers immerse into the Scaleverse? So Jack, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hey, great question. So, and I think it's very pertinent, because every great project is, only as strong as their community. Okay. And a big piece of that is, one, you have to have a strong foundational tech. You have to have a strong go-to-market effort in terms of like evangelizing and letting developers know what you're building and getting people to build on the platform. But number two, you need to educate the world. And so our community, we need you, your help, educating and passing information along. Okay. And so that is, and not, there's a lot of memeing and hype marketing. That stuff's great, but we really have something to share here. And for people that want to understand how the tech works at scale and then want to share that, I think that goes a long way. Quality interactions and quality education and quality, I'd say, awareness are worth so much more than the lighthearted fun. And lighthearted fun's great. Like, we should do that. Let's meme, let's have fun. We always need to have more fun. But if you want to help, we would love for you to get in touch with the team and the ambassador team, and play a role in helping share all of the content and create materials. I give a shout out to Saka. Saka created a really great educational piece on Scale today, 100% own effort. The core team wasn't involved at all, and it gave a great explanation of how gas free works. I retweeted it if you're following me on Twitter. So things like that go a long way, because that's educating somebody on, it's fun, it's cool, but it's also has real content and information. Okay. The other piece is governance. So we have taken a step back from governance to make sure the community of developers and validators and partners are driving it. One of the main community developers will be, from my understanding, is going to be publishing on the forum a proposal for the governance. And people are like, hey, where's the governance? Well, one, if Stan and I just do the governance and we implement it, we had this idea for Scale and we do this, well, that's not very decentralized. So we need other people getting involved. And I want to give a shout out to this developer. Everyone will know who it is later when they publish this. But things like that go a long ways, as well as then once the governance there is voting. So we want you to get involved. We want you to vote. We want you to be engaged. And even if your token, if you're like, hey, I don't have, my vote, I don't know how big of an impact it will make, go vote. Number of votes matter. And also in the forum, when you can vote, talk, and give your opinions, those matter a lot. Okay. And for us to really excel, we need to have a strong decentralized governance and a lot of people that care and a lot of people that are educated. And the more that you do that, the less and less important core teams are. And our goal as a core team is to make ourselves as, it's counterintuitive, but we want to make ourselves have little power and importance as possible. Because if we do that, it means the project's successful and everybody else is driving things forward. Now you look at Ethereum. Ethereum's a great example where, hey, they've got the founding team, they've got, you've got Vitalik, you've got the foundation. They have huge influence, but the way Ethereum's run and govern is by so many integrated people and so many parties. And that's the goal with Scale as well.
I just want to add really about the governance. It's a great question for us at engineering, because as probably some of you guys know who follow Scale, that we are actually releasing 2.1. It's incredibly important release for us. But now we're doing 2.2. And 2.2, there are two major things that are happening in 2.2. We're gonna make our token transfers much faster. And Scale is already the only network which has many blockchains, and you can transfer tokens from any other blockchain to any other blockchain for free. Right? We already have it, but in 2.2, it's going to be much faster. So it's a major thing for us for 2.2 to speed up token transfers. But the second thing is a major driver for 2.2. We're calling it now Scale Connect. It's essentially a very new dynamic Oracle technology, but basically it allows to do things which were not possible before on blockchain. And one of the things that allow you on one blockchain, you can see NFTs from all other blockchains. It's actually transferring these NFTs. So vote on Scale with a particular token, you would need to transfer this token to Scale and then pay lots of money for the transfer fees, which created this friction for voting, right? If you need to pay money to vote, less people vote. But with this new technology, Scale Connect, it's going to be first totally free, the voting, which hopefully will allow smaller token holders to vote, or other parts of the community to vote for free. But also this Scale Connect means that you could have a situation where you could have an NFT somewhere on one blockchain, maybe on Ethereum mainnet, but you can use this NFT as a proof to vote for something else, or for some other DAO, or something else on another blockchain. It becomes really flexible, and we consider the Scale Connect really important thing for us. So we actually actively propagating information about and telling it about to our friends and partners, and there are already projects building for Scale Connect. But one thing which I almost for sure is that Scale Connect is also going to be ultimately used for Scale voting, meaning that you could have your Scale token anywhere, on any blockchain, maybe on Ethereum mainnet, but you don't need to move it. You could use the fact that it's somewhere through this Scale Connect Oracle technology to vote on Scale chain. So this is the technology part of the voting that we are really excited about, and ultimately Scale is going to implement this.
Yes.
Yeah. So one other I want to just call out how cool Scale Connect is. So we were talking, I think in the Apes Discord, somebody said, hey, you should think about using Scale and for your games. And then somebody said, oh, well, in app chain environments, we're just worried that if we move $1 million ape over to the Scale network, and they brought up these, and then, arguments about, security of other networks, because they don't want to move the apes off of the mainnet at all. Even though, hey, there's a great argument to be made that the apes are going to be safe. They're going to, could be use the IMA bridge. You'd have to attack the whole Scale network to steal them. But anyways, guess what? Scale Connect completely removes all that friction. And what happens is the Scale chain Oracle can go look at the mainnet, and any user that, like my Ethereum address 0x7g5 blah 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 blah, if I have an ape, well, Scale Connect sees that, and let's say the apes had a game on Scale. Well, only I can gate in and use that ape or use the assets I have on Ethereum over on Scale. And then Scale becomes a kind of true scalability engine, almost like AWS. Like right now, if I'm using AWS for computation, I'm using Elastic Compute Cloud. on Amazon. Well, it's processing all these transactions. Then it's telling another system, oh, send money over here. And so it's doing the same thing. Scale's doing a similar thing where Scale's being used to process transactions and run smart contracts. And then these assets on the mainnet are being moved around based off where Scale's telling it to move in terms of, and so you almost have this like Web 2 model in a Web 3 world. But guess what? You could even have NFTs on Solana or other blockchains that you could use in the Scaleverse within games. So it opens up every NFT and every network that has EVM equivalents, and even non-EVM equivalents with the right integration. Those assets can be used in Scale, where you can pay in advance to rent computational space, run highly secure smart contracts and transactions without Oracle fees, additional Oracle fees, or additional security risk or custodial risk around your NFTs. So Scale Connect is something that we're really excited about coming out. And there's a lot of people around all over the project working on this that are, core team, community developers, dApp developers, gaming developers that are all working on Scale Connect. And so that's an exciting piece for 2.2 that, we're pumped about.
Yes, lots of exciting things on the horizon for the Scaleverse. So moving along, this question is from Bivab Sahu. What are the plans to educate and raise awareness and adoption among the community to make more people understand about the Scaleverse?
Okay, and by the way, there's the second part of the prior question around an intro guide. That's one thing we're doing. We're going to make it really easy with materials to say, oh, you're new to Scale. Here's the 5 things you should read so you can get up to speed. The other thing we're doing is we're really taking a look at the product marketing. For those of you that aren't familiar with product marketing, I suggest doing some Google searching and reading about it. But product marketing is the way you market and you talk about the way the product functions, the technology. Okay. And we're striving to come up with ways that are more concise, more clear, more accurate, and less complex. Now, in product marketing for tech, complexity and simplicity and conciseness are accuracy and conciseness are diametrically opposed. So it's really hard to be concise and accurate. It's okay. It's easy to be complex, incredibly verbose and long and accurate, but we want to be, on the point with the best product marketing we have. And we want that to live through all these different channels. So there's a huge effort there. The other piece is there's new tech that's coming, Scale Connect, Scale ZK, as well as just even more improvements in 2.1 and 2.2. Now, what we already have is great and it works for developers. We're going to keep pushing that, but there's more stuff coming, but we need to educate people around what's happening. And so a large part of that then is comms. So we did a restructure on the comms effort. So Sydney now is going to be really working to help drive those key events and key messages through, getting in the right news sources, getting through the right podcasts. The marketing team is continuing to help, and the community are going to be driving key messages through the right audiences, educating people. And the thing is that's cool about Scale is we have something that's real, that's something people are using, that there's over 55 million transactions since June. And other networks are doing a great job hyping stuff better than us, but they're hyping what I would say a hollow core. We have this really dense core of value, and now we just need to do a better and better job of communicating it clearly, concisely, through the right channels, to the right audience at the right time. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Sydney, are you excited to do that?
Yes.
All right.
So this next question is from Gia Lee. Can you tell us something about the progress of Scale's integration of ZK technology? Stan, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, as I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, that many things are happening at Scale with respect to ZK. And one thing which is really important for us is that it needs to be fast. Because it depends. We want people that use Scale to get the same user experience, no matter whether they use ZK or not. If you look at a Scale chain, let's say you have a Scale chain, right? We do have fast finality. So if I pay someone on Scale chain, I buy like my Coke, then I just wait a couple of seconds. If I pay like $1, I just wait a couple of seconds, and it just very much becomes like a real-time transaction. I pay, and then the person gives me my Coke back, right? But then if you use Scale ZK on Scale, some of the transactions are also going to be posted to the mainnet. But if you buy Coke, you won't have to wait. So if you are on a Scale ZK chain, and Jack just mentioned that initially there will be one chain, obviously, and then there will be more chains, right? So there will be this first one chain, which will be ZK enabled initially. And so if you're on this ZK chain, you're paying it's just a regular Scale chain. So if you're paying someone on Scale for Coke, you don't need to wait for ZK, for things to post it to the mainnet. The experience is going to be the same. But then if you're paying someone, if you're buying a house and you're doing your mortgage transfer on Scale ZK, then it will make sense for you to wait until it's not only finalized on Scale, but also posted to the mainnet and acquires the security of the mainnet. So the Scale actually introduces these two times, the fast finality time and slow finality time, and the users can choose. And if you're paying for something small, you don't have to wait for the long finality time. We feel this is the major contribution we are making compared to first generation ZK rollups, because if you're on the first generation ZK rollup, no matter whether you pay for Coke or you transfer your mortgage, you still have to wait hours essentially until it gets finalized on the Ethereum mainnet. With Scale already having its own finalization time, you don't have to wait if you're making a small purchase. Because of this is I think that's one of the reasons we decided to do ZK for Scale, because we think our thing is going to be second generation, is going to be way better than others. That's number one. And number two, we are looking into mathematical things to speed up ZK. And ironically, because we are kind of the second generation, we can make things faster than what people did in the first generation, just because we are coming later. And I cannot disclose many things of our partners, what we are doing, but we clearly see that the funny thing is that because we are doing ZK now, we can do it much faster than the first generation guys, just because this is the moment where there's lots of open source, new mathematics, new algorithms, and that's why we can make it faster. So we can make it faster, number one, and number two, we have this fundamental difference where the first generation ZK rollups just have one single finality time, which is really slow, and our thing is going to be having two finality times. So the users will have to choose to either trust just Scale chain or wait until things get finalized both on Scale and on Ethereum mainnet. And because of these two things, we feel that we are going to be fundamentally better with our ZK. Having said that, there are many other things, but at this moment we did not yet decided to make them public. One reason for this is because we think we make them better or change them. If you release information too early, you cannot stop. You cannot change things. But definitely, our ZK is the core thing for us now. As Jack mentioned, not all of the customers want ZK and they need ZK, but there's a specific set of Scale customers that do want the security of the mainnet, and ZK targets them. And as Jack said, also ZK makes our picture complete, right? Some people want ZK, some people don't want ZK. We can offer them everything. That's pretty much the answer.
All right, awesome. Jack, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. And I think sometimes in technology, it pays to be a first mover. Other times in technology, it pays to be a second mover. Another thing I'd suggest people read about if you want to learn about kind of these business strategy topics, but like read about second mover advantage. And I think when it comes to ZK, we have a real second mover advantage to see how other things have been deployed. We also have the infrastructure that is there to help deploy. We have the vehicle. This is just another component to the engine that we can add, essentially. So, being able to see and witness and observe and sit on the sidelines, closely watching, has put Stan and the other researchers and developers within the SKALE project at, I think, a very great position to, one, deploy ZK, and also for us to build great partnerships to help that come together. So we're excited. It's going to take a while, obviously, and there's a lot of things that have to come together. But it's we are in a position where we can leverage open source code, which can make the whole thing hum and move more quickly and more. Let us also pick the right horse, so to speak, based on real world evidence. So, hey, Sydney, before we wrap up, I just want to say again, really, really appreciate it. There are a ton of questions. I know that, it's just, it means the world to the people that are, we're getting up early, we're working late, and all these people are in and around the project. And I also see all the action on Twitter and all the involvement. And I mean, it's just amazing to see all of you be so engaged. And, we're here, as core team members, we're here at your service. So the next time we do this, I hope there's even more questions. And we look forward to getting into it. And also, really hoping, I'm looking forward to this governance proposal being pushed forward and people getting engaged and us getting this approved and ratified and getting the first vote done. Okay. So it's got to come from outside, and there's a lot of, I think, great people working on that, and excited to see that go live. Okay. All right.
Just to add just a little bit to what Jack said, totally agree with what he said. And I think from the engineering perspective, when we were building the product, initially we were pretty secluded, coding too much, maybe talking to people too less. As I mentioned, we are kind of entering a different phase of scale engineering where things are slowing down, but higher quality. But also it gives us more time to teach people and create some video series. We're having the ZK for Impatient. There will be many more other video things coming from SKALE, educating people. So the way we see it, that we kind of started as an early stage startup, which we're really, really busy building things, and we actually need to turn into community and a university. Basically, it's not important to build things if you cannot teach people about them. So actually teaching people about what SKALE has is more important to us now than building new things. And because of that, we kind of opening up, trying to do more community things. We realize that online videos is probably more efficient than just going to conferences, because you go to conference, you talk to one person, and on Twitter you tweet, and many people can digest. So I think that from the perspective of engineering, there's lots of things happening where the way we envision our future long-term is becoming essentially a university. SKALE getting more and more mature, technology getting more stable. So then our role as engineers is to help people. And we already have some people in the core engineering team that are moving as part of these changes that SKALE Jack is talking about, moving from core engineering to more like facing our community, helping people build things on SKALE. So this is kind of a direction where we're going, and I hope that we're gonna have more conversations like this, and we're gonna have more governance, and Jack mentioned. So ultimately, we're gonna go more and more in direction of truly open source project with this community of people, and things becoming more and more decentralized as blockchain teaches us, right? Makes things decentralized.
Yes, absolutely. And Jack and Stan, thank you so much for your time today. I know that the community greatly appreciates it. But just want to share a few reminders with everyone. Tomorrow we have our pop-up into the Scaleverse Twitter Spaces with XP Network to discuss their recent launch on SKALE, their product roadmap, and more. So tune in at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time to hear from the XP Network team. And yesterday, we also just released our latest Infinite Chains episode with Xord. Jack and myself chatted with the Xord team. And I know that we spoke about this in great depth today, but Xord has had over 23 million transactions. So this just shows they're getting started. So learn more about Xord and the benefits of their product. And yes, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.